Tonight, we're going to take a break from the politics and talk about mental health. The holidays are just around the corner, and while many will take time off, first responders will still be on the clock. Many, being away from their families and seeing some terrible things at times during such a special time of year, can create mental health problems. Oklahoma Christian Counseling stopped by to talk to me unedited about what they're doing to work on to say it's okay to reach out for help. Joining me today is Kimberly White. She is a therapist with Oklahoma Christian Counseling. We're talking about first responders and the trauma they deal with. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, you bet. Thanks.
When it comes to the first responders, we have often heard suck it up, buttercup, that kind of thing. Is the stigma of that moving away when it comes to dealing with, because they see lots of stuff?
Sure. Yes. I think we're seeing a positive shift in that, especially with younger, newer first responders, because they're starting to learn in their training that they have resources they can tap into. But for a very long time, as with military, it was kind of a stigma to say that you were not doing okay based on a call you'd been out on, or something you've worked. So we're moving in the right direction, but there still are not nearly as many therapists who are trained to work with them based on the particular trauma and the amount of trauma that they're exposed to in the course of their day-to-day job.
I mean, these first responders, they've seen fires, domestic violence on their own and things like that. Is this stuff hard to talk about for them because they go from call to call?
Oh, absolutely. Again, they're learning to start to talk about that, but on the street, you do sometimes go from call to call, and the holiday season gets especially busy now because I read a statistic recently where maybe up to 25% of families are calling for a first responder on the holidays because of gatherings and injuries and domestic fights and different things. So there's a ramping up in the holiday season of calling out for first responders to come help. So sometimes there's no time to really process what you've been on, and you're going from often call to call to call. So there's no place to put that, and training just says you just kind of hold it in there and you do your job. But what we want first responders to know is that at some point it's absolutely okay, if not necessary, to tell somebody, either a squad member, a trusted family friend, a therapist, I'm really struggling with a call I went out on. So that's why our agency, our clinic, we're all licensed professional counselors. We come from a Christian perspective, but we see absolutely anyone. And I'm a certified first responder counselor. So I've been out in the field with them, and so I understand, a lot of what they're dealing with. So is the fact that they are working on the holidays when everyone else is with their family, is that why you see the spike? There's more of an isolation to it? There's some of that. There's so you have more calls, you have more people having to go out to these different calls. Then you have people who are getting to take vacation. First responders, try to take vacation when they can as well, but that can leave them, that can leave their agency short-staffed. So you may end up having the ones who are left working longer hours, longer shifts, more shifts, and then they're not getting to go home and hang out at family time at Thanksgiving, on Christmas, because they're out, doing their job. So they're, best case scenario, they're missing out on those holiday moments that the rest of their family is a part of. Worst case scenario is it's Christmas Day and some other family in our city is having their worst day. They're having a death in the family. First responders are going out to work that. And then that all kind of gets tied into that holiday thing. It's not all bright and cheery and everything's great. First responders are dealing with people having their worst day ever sometimes. And at the holidays, that can seem especially difficult. So now they're dealing with other families' trauma as well.
How dangerous is that? I mean, obviously everybody takes home their work to an extent, but how dangerous is that to take those feelings and possibly bring it into their own home after a long day?
Yeah. Well, our hope is that again, agencies are getting better at providing peer support or encouraging their, their employees. Find somebody you can talk to. Our agency sees people. There are a couple other agencies here in town who work specifically with first responders. But it's not unusual that they're just taking it home and they're just kind of stuffing it. And we're just here to tell them, you don't have to do that. You have somebody you can talk to. And that really does make it better and more tolerable to deal with what they've seen. We can't undo the past. We can't necessarily make memories go away, but we can help a first responder make sense of what they've seen, and therefore it doesn't sit as heavy with them anymore when they've had somebody safe to process that with.
What do the triggers look like? Like when I need y'all's help, like let's say I'm living my daily life, what do those triggers look like where I'm flashing an indicator that I need help?
It can be the first responder can be isolating a lot. They're not doing the used tos. They used to go fishing. They used to hang out with some of their extended family and friends. They used to do more than just sit in front of the TV and have a beer or five or hide off in their man cave or whatever. So, sometimes it's noticing that isolation. Sometimes it can be, extra irritability. There are a lot of different factors. Somebody just asking somebody, or telling them it's okay to not be okay, and is there anything I can do to help you? Sometimes something as simple as that will let a first responder know that they don't have to keep hiding this, whatever that is. Because keep in mind, our EMT and our fire personnel are starting to see more combative calls than they would have maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago. Law enforcement was more used to seeing that, but now we hear stories on the news of medics getting shot at, or firemen getting injured by somebody on the scene. So they're just seeing a lot of different things again on a daily basis, and that is part of their job now. But they are seeing trauma after trauma after trauma, and the family's trauma. If a family member has died, then the extended family, they're brokenhearted. There's a lot of anguish, and your first responders are right there in the middle of that, and that can be really hard to sit with, right? So you have all that vicarious trauma where they're responding to somebody else's absolute worst day as well, and that can be hard, to see somebody in anguish over losing a loved one, a child. So all that can start to pile in after a time.
Kimberly, thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you.